What does it look like buying a self-storage investment today? Not in the past, right now. What are we seeing? And what are the real numbers? What do you actually have to go through when buying it and onboarding it? The problems, how much you need to have for Capex, cash flow, all of it. Let's go through the nitty-gritty, the actual numbers, and what it looks like to find a good self-storage opportunity today. Most of the time, we're looking at my own personal deals, and we've gone over case study. A lot of those deals are very large deals. We're talking about $18 million acquisitions. Now, that's not how I started out. We started out buying small facilities in really rural towns. We're talking about a few $100,000. Today, we're gonna look at Colin's facility that he just purchased, and there's work that needs to be done. Now, this was in a big market, and he purchased this facility for just over $2 million, even though it was listed at over $2.4 million. He went under contract and bought it for $400,000 under asking price. There's 246 doors at this facility. And in the back, we have unused space that can be used for parking that just wasn't being. The net rentable square feet on this facility is just over 28,000. That turns out to be a purchase price of right around $70 a square foot, which is under replacement cost in this market. Occupancy was there, but there was definite room for improvement. There was right around 65% occupancy at the time. So his going in cap rate on a facility like this was just over 7.5. The facility itself, revenue was grossing right around $330,000 for the first year. With expenses right about $147,000, that left a net operating income of right around $180,000. Now, with debt services of around $122,000 and one-time expenses, that leaves cash flow at right around $50,000 a year. Now, that's before any improvements. Now, there's a lot that needed to be done on this facility, and we're gonna dive into it. That's just the purchase price, and that's how much he got off of asking and its revenue and net cash flow. But what actually needs to be done? Because you see, this was a mom and pop operator. We're talking a one-man show, and there was work that needed to be done. So he added in right around $250,000 for improvements for this facility. He also kept about $121,000 in working capital. That way he could treat it kind of like a lease-up facility and make sure that he had runway that he needed to improve the facility and fill it up, and just in case anything went wrong. This is a smart move, especially because he needed to do improvements. For his loan, he got an interest rate right about 6%. Now, this left with an average around 14 to 16% annualized cash on cash for this facility. But what did he actually buy? Well, first, let's go over the problems, the issues that this facility had that he needed to resolve and needed that capital expense to actually fix this facility up. The low occupancy was represented because the owner was doing really nothing to move people in. There was no marketing, he wasn't discounting rates, and you could hardly see the facility because visibility was blocked. There were big trees on the front end of the property that the seller had planted, and it blocked the frontage of the facility from the street view. Those obviously needed to come down and open up that vantage point. The asphalt right in the front was thin and cracking, and that needed to be resealed and fixed because that doesn't leave a good impression when you're pulling in and there's a pothole. Some of the doors were old and oxidized and really needed to be cleaned up. The back section just needed to be smoothed out, but it was pretty much ready for parking to open that up and add additional spots to get in more revenue. The seller, he did everything. He was the collector, repairman, the operator. There was no systems, there was no scalability at all put into this facility. It was a one-man band. The software that was being utilized was old and really limited, not allowing much functionality or ability for that operator to manage his asset. As far as tenant insurance going and implementing that and getting the revenue from it, only 8 tenants even were participating. That was something Colin updated very quickly and mandated. There was no smart technology, and what I mean by that, I'm talking about the locks. They were just old locks put on the units by the tenants. Why that's important is because when you have smart technology or smart locks in the facility, you can really run this thing remotely and you can automate it and optimize it. So that was one of the first things that had to be changed. The buildings themselves were unlabeled and tenants really couldn't find their units. So it's amazing what small things like paint, fixing doors, asphalt, labeling, directional sign, communication does to a facility like this. Now, that's not including adding in new software, marketing, and smart technology. Those are big improvements. Lots of people are out trying to buy facilities, small ones that range everywhere from $300,000 to $4 or $5 million. They're worried about getting the money or having the financing. This is why we team up with Live Oak Bank, because they get this. They understand storage. We have them help us underwrite deals for our students and others. They are one of the best people in the industry when it comes to getting loans, especially small business loans. They can actually help the customers when they find the asset, understanding how much debt can I get? What's it gonna look like? That changes them from being a bank to being a real asset to the customer. We recommend Live Oak Bank to our students as well as others that are trying to get into the storage business. They have an in-depth knowledge of this asset class. It's more than a bank. It's more than simply getting money. They're actually an asset and a partner to them, helping them go through all the things that they don't know and understand. On top of that, there was a large break room and where the office was supposed to be. It was adjacent and was 10 by 20 square footage with air conditioning. Colin actually turned that into rented office space and leased it out to bring in additional revenue. Out of the capital that he had gotten to do improvements, he could do a lot with that capital. He added in roughly 10 new parking spots, which he could use to rent out and bring in that additional revenue. We had 49, almost 50 new roll-up doors that were clean and they worked smoothly. Full facility paint job. He did the whole thing and he added in channel letter signage and he added in directional and signage for the customers. Labeling the buildings, the numbers, the front signage letting people from the road know the storage facility was there with its name. Adding QR codes throughout the facility so the tenants could go on and get anything done that they needed to and get questions answered so they could have help and support. The smart locks that were installed were Kiss One locks. Now, these locks were installed facility-wide, creating every single door now smart locked so they could monitor the facility and tenants could access via their smartphone. They also added, with Storage Defender, individual alarms in the units, adding additional security. Piggybacked off new AI searchable camera systems. The old camera systems were really old, with large cords hanging down. These new camera systems, the new locks, plus the new alert systems on individual units improved the security and safety of the facility, therefore adding more value to the tenants. He also did a gate keypad replacement, making it easier for those tenants to get in and out of the facility. As far as the technology and branding go, he switched over to Tenant Inc.'s software, Hummingbird, and he had a dynamic software system that could connect to marketing, the actual gate locks, and he could add visibility into the operations, do rate management, dynamic pricing, and more, giving him the power of a big operator. He utilized Store Local's branding, which gave him really good domain authority and ranking online. That way, he was more searchable, considering 85% of the tenants come to him from online. The software system, Hummingbird and Tenant Inc., allows them to rent online, access the facility and the gate without ever needing to interact with a human, making it automated and so he could remote manage it. More people can find and more people can rent, therefore increasing the demand of that facility. Alongside that, mandatory protection plan for tenants and their units. He started working with local realtors and paying them $50 for every referral for any customer that comes in and stays for 3+ months, utilizing more of a grassroots Roots campaign as well. The office break room turned into a leasing office, and then the facility also had a workshop in which he turned into a large unit that gave the renters power so they could use in the facility. Now, this he can sell at a big premium. All these things are great, and there were some challenges, but they were all fixable to improve that occupancy, but the market has to allow it. The market that he's in had a 7% growth rate, with storage supply that was under 10 square feet per capita. So there was demand in the market. This would allow not just facility fill up, but also give him pricing power. Now, this is a lot of fix up and a lot of turnaround. There's always issues with this. It's never as smooth as it seems. 50% of the tenants didn't even read the notifications, so he had to help tenants as they transferred onto the new system. Their on-site contractor that was helping with on-site work went dark for 10 days in the middle of it. There were struggles with the call center and the onboard, but after they notified the call center and things worked out smoothly. But still, they had to get them up and going, and that was kind of a rough patch. Their bookkeeper that they had outsourced overseas their bookkeeping and didn't really understand what was going on. So in turn, he brought it back into our community and had someone help him there, because Colin's a part of our community. This is how he learned to search the market and find this deal, negotiate, as well as do all these improvements. There was, of course, Capex creep, meaning there was unforeseen capital expenditures that needed to be put in. Remember that keypad that I was talking about? Yeah, that wasn't foreseen nor planned. He had to do that within the first month. This pushed the Reno budget, along with additional painting and a few miscellaneous things, up about $30,000. But he was prepared for it, and so it worked out, including having working capital on to get him through the transition. One of the big things about this is he wasn't actually the highest bidder on this facility. Remember, he purchased it $400,000 under asking price. What made the difference was he went to the site. He got to know the owner. He walked around the facility. He showed respect for the seller and what the seller had done and built up into that point. This was the difference that got him the deal. That capital reserve allowed him to sleep easy at night as he was filling up, because he can always take back the capital reserve once the facility is totally full and operating in the way that he wants, but it's there in case he needs it. This also gives him time to build up reserves. His lender, National Painting Center, as well as his bookkeeper, and every critical resource came from the community, which he's a part of, and self-storage income. This allowed him to make actionable steps and have all the resources he needed. He stuck with his plan as he was going, but he made sure he did it with eyes wide open. The facility is well on its way to stabilize already, and at a stabilization, you're talking about $100,000 in cash flow, coming from $48,000, roughly $50,000 at where he purchased it. That's a doubling of the cash flow. Net operating income goes from $180,000 to $250,000. Remember that net operating income, that is before your one-time expenses and your debt servicing. Essentially, he's doubling the value of the asset that he purchased. That's not having market rates just go up. That's with the improvements that he's making, getting rid of delinquencies, making sure everyone's paying on time, and filling up the facility to stabilize where it should be, because the rest of the market was. He got the money from himself and 6 other friends and families that he put together for that down payment. This facility is a perfect example of facilities that we're seeing today, and we're seeing lots of them. Another one of our members just bought a $500,000 facility under asking price. This one was basically turnkey ready. It was nice, ready to go, and cash flowing. A lot of the facilities that we're seeing on the market being sold today are doing seller financing. In fact, we just got a seller financing deal, $5 million, 4% interest rate, interest only for 5 years. That too, substantially under asking price. The deals are there. You just have to remember that you don't find deals, you make them. They don't sell at just what they're asking for online, and if you pass up a good deal because the asking price is too much, you're gonna miss a lot. And the deal is in the details. It's in that value add. And if you work a little harder and have the resources you need, you can find deals everywhere today.